The bar was quiet, just the clatter of forks and the smell of bacon grease. An old man in a wheelchair sat alone, eating his breakfast. Then the door slammed open. A pack of leather-clad bikers stormed in, loud, drunk, and itching for trouble. The room froze, except for him. The old man didn't flinch, didn't look away. His eyes locked on theirs, calm, steady, unshaken. One biker snarled, "What the hell are you looking at, old man?" He stomped over and grabbed the veteran by the shirt. "Rep!" The fabric tore wide open, exposing a black dagger tattoo etched deep into his chest. Underneath it, the number 182. The bikers burst out laughing. "Nice prison ink, Grandpa. What's that number supposed to mean?" The old man leaned forward, voice low and razor sharp. "It means I've killed 182 men. And that dagger?" He paused, eyes burning. "That's the mark of the Navy SEALs." The laughter died in their throats, and somewhere in the corner, a man was already dialing a number that would change everything. Before we start, if you like veterans, then comment below and tell us where you're from. The morning sun spilled through the dusty windows of a small roadside bar. Plates clinked, coffee hissed on the pot, and the scent of bacon floated heavy in the air. At the corner table sat an old man in a wheelchair, his posture straight, his eyes calm. He wasn't dressed to impress, just a plain flannel shirt, worn jeans, and boots that had seen better days. His silver hair was cut short, his face carved with lines from years of weather and war. The others in the bar barely noticed him as they went about their breakfast. To them, he was just another old-timer, another forgotten soul rolling through life quietly. But for anyone watching closely, there was something in his gaze, something unshakable, the kind of stare that didn't belong to a fragile man, but to someone who had already walked through fire and come back out the other side. The bar door slammed open. A gust of hot morning wind rushed in with a pack of leather jackets and heavy boots. 6 bikers stormed the place, loud laughter spilling from their mouths, the stink of alcohol clinging to them, even this early in the day. Their voices swallowed the room, mocking, shouting, slamming their fists on tables as they claimed the center like they owned it. Eyes turned away. No one wanted trouble. The bartender glanced down, polishing a glass that was already clean. The waitresses tightened their lips and moved faster, hoping the men would eat and leave. But not the old man. He kept eating his eggs, cutting them with steady precision, chewing slowly, like nothing in the world could shake him. One of the bikers noticed. His grin curled into something ugly. "Hey!" he barked across the room. "You got a problem, old man?" The veteran lifted his eyes, slow, deliberate. They locked onto the bikers, not with anger, not with fear, but with a stillness that cut deeper than any insult. The biker froze mid-step, as though those eyes carried a weight he couldn't explain. But pride burned hotter than hesitation. He snarled, "Don't stare at me like that!" and stomped closer, heavy boots thudding against the wooden floor. The whole bar held its breath. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Conversations died into silence. He loomed over the old man, leaning in so close their breasts touched. Then in a flash of rage, his hand shot forward, grabbing the veteran's shirt collar. His fist twisted the fabric, pulling hard. Rip! The sound echoed like a gunshot. The old man's shirt tore open, the buttons snapping, fabric falling wide across his chest. Gas rippled through the room. And there it was, a black dagger tattoo etched deep into his weathered skin, the ink dark and sharp even after all these years. Underneath the blade was a number, bold and unforgiving. 182. The bikers erupted with laughter. The one holding his shirt pointed and jeered. "Look at this crap. Old man thinks he's some kind of badass. What is that, prison ink?" Another biker leaned in, squinting at the number. "What's the 182 supposed to mean, huh? The number of beers you've spilled?" Their laughter filled the bar, cruel and mocking. Some of the patrons looked away in pity. Others lowered their eyes, too afraid to get caught in the storm. But the old man didn't move, didn't flinch. His voice, when it came, was low but carried across the silence with chilling clarity. "That number," he said, his eyes fixed on the bikers, "is my kill count." The laughter stopped like a blade slicing through it. For the first time, the bikers hesitated. The tattoo wasn't just ink. It was a brand of fire, belonging to the Navy SEALs, a symbol that carried stories no one in that bar could even imagine. The biker's grin faltered. Kill count? What are you? Some kind of soldier? The old man leaned forward, his eyes unblinking. Not some kind, the kind. The biker swallowed, but before he could reply, the old man went back to his breakfast, calm as ever, like tearing open old scars meant nothing at all. That calmness was worse than any threat. It unsettled them more than shouting ever could. But bikers lived off pride. They couldn't back down in front of an audience. So they doubled their laughter, mocking harder, shouting louder, trying to cover the unease settling in their guts. What they didn't know was that someone else in the bar recognized that dagger tattoo. Someone who understood what 182 truly meant. And that man was already sliding his phone out of his pocket, dialing a number that would summon hell to that quiet roadside bar. And when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same again. The bar hung in silence after the old veteran's words. Kill count. 2 words that turned the air thick enough to choke on. The biker's hand loosened on his torn shirt, but pride clawed at his throat. He shoved the old man's chest lightly, masking his unease with a sneer. Big talk for someone who can't even stand on his own 2 feet. The laughter returned, louder, harsher. They wanted to bury their own fear under the noise. But no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't erase the calm in the old man's eyes. He didn't flinch, didn't break. He simply picked up his coffee mug and sipped, the steam curling up like smoke from a battlefield. At a booth near the window, a man set down his fork. He wasn't young himself, gray hair creeping at his temples, eyes sharp behind his glasses. He leaned forward slightly, staring at the tattoo on the veteran's chest. His heart skipped. He knew that symbol, the dagger, the numbers. That wasn't just a Navy SEAL tattoo. That was a mark tied to missions whispered about in military circles, the kind that never made the news. And 182, that wasn't just a number, it was a silent monument of lives taken on battlefields most people didn't even know existed. The man pulled out his phone. He hesitated, glancing at the bikers jeering like hyenas around the old veteran. Then he dialed a number. Line's dead, the bartender muttered nervously, trying to call the sheriff. The bikers had cut the phone lines earlier, bragging about it. Even cell service was jammed, the signal bars fading to nothing. But the man at the window knew something the rest didn't. He had one secure number, one line that always worked, no matter where you were. His fingers trembled as he pressed send. The voice on the other end was calm. Where are you? The man gave the name of the bar. His words clipped, urgent. He only said one more thing before hanging up. SEAL dagger. 182. The line went dead. Inside the bar, the bikers circled the veteran. One leaned in close, blowing smoke into his face. You expect us to believe you killed 182 people? You can't even kill a plate of bacon. The old man's eyes flicked up. No emotion, no heat, just cold truth. You think death cares how old you are? How fast you run? Death only cares if you can face it. The biker faltered. For a split second, he saw something in the veteran's eyes. Something that pulled him back to childhood, to nights waking from nightmares he couldn't explain. He clenched his jaw, masking the shiver in his spine with a forced laugh. The others in the bar didn't laugh this time. The waitresses had gone pale. The bartender's hand shook so hard he nearly dropped a glass. Something about those words, about that number, had shifted the room. And then it happened. A low rumble outside. Engines. Not the thunderous roar of bikes, but something heavier, deeper, smoother. The kind of sound that rolled with authority. Heads turned toward the windows. Black shapes pulled up, tires crunching gravel. 2 SUVs, polished and dark as midnight, their tinted windows hiding what sat inside. The bikers frowned, their swagger flickering for the first time. Who the hell is that? One muttered. The bartender leaned forward, his hands gripping the counter tight. Those ain't locals. The SUV doors opened. Boots hit the ground. Heavy, measured, disciplined. 8 men in uniform stepped out, their movements precise, their presence commanding. The bar went silent. Every head turned as the door swung open. The team walked in, filling the space like shadows of war. Their faces were hard, unreadable, their gear marked with patches the bikers didn't recognize. But the old veteran did. Navy SEALs. The leader's gaze swept the room. It landed on the old man in the wheelchair. For a moment, the mask of steel cracked, replaced by something else. Respect. He gave a slight nod. The old veteran didn't return it. He didn't need to. The leader turned to the bikers. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of storms. Step away from him. The bikers froze. Their bravado bled away under the stare of men who lived and breathed combat. For the first time, they weren't predators. They were prey. The bar had never been that quiet, not even during closing time. 8 Navy SEALs stood like statues carved from steel, their presence so commanding that even the air seemed to hesitate. The leader took a step forward. One step, and the biker's swagger melted into stuttering stillness. The old man in the wheelchair? He didn't even blink. He just sipped what was left of his now cold coffee, as if this was just another Tuesday morning. One of the bikers finally found his voice. Hey, what's the big deal? We were just talking. His voice cracked halfway through the sentence. The SEAL leader turned to him, slow and cold. You put your hands on a brother. Not loud, not shouted, but the kind of calm that carried storms. He took one more step. Now they were close. Too close for comfort. The biker instinctively took a step back. His boots scraped the wooden floor. Another SEAL moved toward the old veteran. He knelt. Yes, knelt beside his wheelchair. He didn't speak right away, just looked him in the eye. Then he said with a quiet reverence, Sir, permission to stand beside you? The old man gave the smallest nod. That was all it took. And in that moment, the rest of the bar realized this wasn't just an old vet. This was someone important, someone feared, someone remembered. The leader turned back to the bikers. Do you have any idea who you just put your hands on? No one answered. Do you know what 18-2 means? Still silence. He took a deep breath. It's not a club number. It's not a street code. It's a kill count, logged in black ink by the Navy for a reason. Every head in the bar turned toward the old man's tattoo again. That black dagger, the number 182 beneath it. One of the biker's lips parted. You're saying he killed 100 and... Yes, the SEAL leader interrupted. And not from a chair, not from a desk, from the dirt, from the mud, from enemy territory so deep, even the maps didn't show it. Then came the first real hook twist. Your entire crew couldn't survive 10 minutes where this man spent a decade. That line landed like a punch to the gut. The bikers didn't laugh anymore. Their eyes darted toward the exit like trapped animals. The bartender whispered to the waitress behind the counter, Why are they still standing? Why hasn't anyone cuffed them yet? The SEAL leader overheard. He turned back and spoke with a calm you could slice with a knife. Because we still respect the badge, even when it's worn by people who don't deserve it. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a satellite phone. Not a cell phone. A black military-grade satellite phone. He dialed a number, waited, and then said 3 sentences. Chief Donovan, this is Gray. 3 officers in your registry assaulted a decorated SEAL veteran in public. I'll hold. He didn't wait long. The whole bar could hear the muffled voice on the other end, though they couldn't make out the words. But they could hear what came next. Gray's voice turned razor sharp. Understood. I'll wait for your men to arrive. Warrants will be faxed to the local station. He hung up, then looked at the 3 men who had tormented the veteran. Congratulations. You've just been fired, and you're under arrest. The room went silent again, but this time, the silence wasn't fear. It was awe. The second major hook landed right here. In less than 20 minutes, a man who couldn't even walk had the entire bar watching 3 uniformed officers lose their careers, their reputations, and their freedom without lifting a single finger. The old man finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost bored. Gentlemen, I didn't need to fight you because I already fought for you. That line sent chills down every spine in the building. One of the younger SEALs clenched his fists. He'd been silent this whole time. But now he stepped forward. He looked at the one who had ripped the veteran's shirt. Then, crack, his fist connected with the man's jaw. The biker collapsed to the ground like a sack of bricks. The room erupted, but not in chaos, in relief, in justice. Because for once, the world wasn't upside down. For once, the good guy didn't just win, he was defended. The bartender wiped a tear from his eye. Never thought I'd see something like this in my life. The old man looked up at the seals, gave a tiny nod of thanks, then turned his attention back to his food. He didn't need to say a word. The look in his eyes said it all. I already fought my war. This one? This was just breakfast. The biker who got punched lay groaning on the floor, clutching his jaw. His two buddies stood frozen, unsure whether to help him up or pretend they weren't even with him. The Navy SEALs stood guard, stone-faced and steady, their presence like a wall of iron. No one in the bar dared breathe too loudly. The old veteran calmly wiped his mouth with a napkin, as though nothing had happened. To him, this wasn't chaos. It was clarity. Finally, the SEAL leader's radio buzzed. A voice crackled through. Local precinct confirmed. Warrants issued. Transport en route. The words sealed the biker's fate. They looked at each other, pale and hollow-eyed. One tried to speak. Wait, we didn't know. But ignorance wasn't an excuse. Not here. Not today. The SEAL leader raised his hand. Two of his men stepped forward, binding the biker's wrist with zip ties. The sound of plastic tightening was louder than thunder in that silent bar. Everyone watched. Everyone knew. Justice was being served. And then the moment came that would be remembered most. One of the bikers, the loudest one, the same who had ripped the old man's shirt, dropped to his knees. Not from force, not from pain, from realization. His voice broke. Sir, I didn't know. The old man tilted his head, eyes steady, voice even. That was your mistake. You never asked who I was. You just assumed I was nobody. The bar felt those words like a sermon. The bikers were let outside. The SUV's engines roared, doors slammed shut, and within minutes they were gone, escorted into the kind of darkness you don't come back from. Inside, silence hung heavy, until the bartender raised his glass and said, To the old man. Chairs scraped, glasses lifted, voices rose. To the old man. The veteran gave a small nod of gratitude. He didn't smile, didn't boast, didn't bask in glory. He just wheeled himself back to his plate, now cold, and finished the last bite like nothing had happened. Because to him, this wasn't about pride, it was about principle. And every single person in that bar understood. You don't measure strength by age or legs or appearances. You measure it by what someone has already endured. If this story hit you the way it hit me, I want to hear from you. Has anyone ever misjudged you? Has someone ever looked at you and assumed you were weak, only to discover the truth too late? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and who knows, maybe the next story we tell will be yours. And if you believe veterans deserve respect no matter what, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next powerful story.